This week, 5 teams, including Oregon, Washington, and Arizona, announced their plans to leave the conference. That brings the total of Pac-12 teams jumping ship to 8. The biggest blows, powerhouse programs USC and UCLA. Teams started leaving for the Big Ten and Big 12 conferences after the Pac-12 failed to secure a lucrative television deal for football games. In the other conferences, the schools will make millions in football revenue.
Over the 10 years of the deal, we anticipate averaging over $50 million just from direct media rights.
The Big Ten now spans 15 states from coast to coast. For some fans, the change is welcome news.
This is exciting, and I think that what it's going to do on a national level for exposure for these schools that are transferring from the Pac-12 is going to be a positive.
But for others, the collapse of the iconic Pac-12 is worrisome, especially for student athletes who do not play football. Athletes like Maddie Doan say the newly aligned conferences will create a travel nightmare for most student athletes, forcing them to log thousands of miles crisscrossing the country for regular season competitions, making it more challenging to balance schoolwork and the physical toll of sports. Even some big names in college football are worried.
Do we know what the #1 indicator of symptom or cause of mental health is? It's lack of rest and sleep. Traveling in those baseball, softball games, you know, those people, they travel commercial, they get done playing at 4, they got to go to the airport, they come back, it's 3 or 4 in the morning, they got to go to class. I mean, did we ask any of them?
Questions still remain about the fate of the Pac-12 and the 4 remaining teams: Cal, Oregon State, Stanford, and Washington State. But for the teams that have already left, athletes could be playing in Oregon one weekend and New Jersey the next.
This narrative now for several months that your league is about to collapse and go away. Why do you think that is?
Well, I sit in the board meetings and I see the commitment that all of our schools have to each other, and I also kind of know where the sources of that is coming from. So I discount that because I know the truth.
Well, that did not age well. That was Pac-12 Commissioner George Kliavkoff at Pac-12 Media Day on July 21st. Just 6 days later, Colorado left for the Big 12, which set the stage for one of the most chaotic and dramatic days in college sports history.
Yeah, one of the most historic leagues in college athletics has gone from the Conference of Champions to the brink of extinction. Lightning quickly, too. On Friday, the Pac-12 made one last media rights proposal for its schools, hoping for the institutions to stay together somehow. But instead, Oregon and Washington accepted invitations to join the Big Ten. And then the dominoes fell and fell fast. Arizona, Arizona State, and, of course, Utah accepting invitations to join the Big 12 for the 2024 season. In a matter of a little more than a year, the Conference of Champions went from 12 to now 4 teams. So why did it all fall apart so quickly?
This was heart-wrenching. It was backwards and forwards, and there were moments when I thought it was going in one direction and then in another. Like I say, at the end, we looked at the deal that we had, the only deal that we had, and it was clear that it was not giving us what we thought. It was not the deal that we had been discussing just days before, and it was not going to secure. When you have a deal where people are saying that one of the best aspects of it is that you can get out of it in 2 years, that tells you a lot.
The downhill slope began before George was around. It started with Larry Scott at the helm, guaranteeing distribution from the Pac-12 network, but the network wasn't available to millions of viewers on DirecTV, losing the conference money, not to mention the lavish spending by Scott, including millions to keep the Pac-12 offices in the Bay Area. And when it came time to get a new deal done, the Big 12 beat him to the punch, plain and simple. Then there was the verbal alliance with the Big 10 and the ACC. That failed quickly. Of course, began with the departure of USC and UCLA. Leadership listened to the wrong voices and failed time and time again.
With the first pick, Caleb Williams, quarterback, Southern California.
There's nothing unusual about the top pick in the NFL draft hailing from the entity originally known as the Pacific Coast Conference.
First choice in the draft, quarterback John Elway of Stanford.
Troy Aikman, quarterback UCLA.
Drew Bledsoe, quarterback Washington State. Andrew Luck, quarterback, Stanford.
14 first overall selections from the PAC. 11 Heisman Trophy winners. You want greatness? The PAC has had it. Excellence? Yes. Programs that elevated their sports and the conference? No doubt.
In my opinion, it was two things. It was UCLA basketball and it was USC football.
UCLA, the NCAA champions for 1967.
USC beat the Buckeyes in one of the all-time thrillers of the Rose Bowl.
But the Conference of Champions encompassed much more than its cornerstones in Los Angeles, and much more than hoops and football. National titles, you've come to the right, meaning left coast. 560 national titles and counting. Over 200 more than the next best conference. And yes, football and basketball too, including arguably the most important and dominant program ever.
UCLA basketball represents a standard of excellence that will never, ever, 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 ever again be.
Seismic news in college athletics.
USC and UCLA are expected to leave the Pac-12 conference.
After more than a century of excellence, the end came suddenly. Schools bound by tradition and history, cleaved by the pursuit of revenue and relevance. The bigger schools making common cause with leagues on the other side of the continental divide. The smallest schools left to fend for themselves.
We just kind of got left out to wander the wilderness. I don't know where it lands for them. It just sucks, man. I think it's just really sad.
When you think about this portion of the country not being represented in a power conference, I mean, it feels like the death of these schools, and the schools will still be there, but it's not the same.
Dominate the game. Own this moment.
You've been here for your few, Kirk. It's safe to say this Pac-12 championship game has never felt like this before. Johnson on the edge, racing, and hustling his way. Touchdown, Washington. The underdogs, unintended, looking great so far. Set to take a direct snap. First and goal from the 4. Hot pass to Bernard around the end, and Jeremy Bernard with a quick touchdown strike. 6 on the throw to the end zone. Lost it for Ferguson. One-handed touchdown catch. What a play by the tight end. Nix scrambles, fires to the end zone. Low throw, touchdown. Terrence Ferguson for the second time tonight.
That's a Heisman-type moment there on 4th down in a championship game.
And Jordan James makes a cut and scores. Oregon on top for the first time in this championship game. Johnson again bulldozes in. A flex for the Husky running game. Washington back on top. Penix lobs it into the end zone. Touchdown. Clinton Moore with the play of his life. Three-man rush. Nix into coverage, delivers over the middle and squeezed it in to Trayshawn Holden. Holden still running down inside the 5. Touchdown. Johnson makes a cut. Forget about that. Johnson, first down, slides down, and the Washington Huskies are going to win.
How awesome is this, man? Just take this in, Husky fans. Doubted by many all year. Underdogs. Seems like on a weekly basis. And now they're going to be the Pac-12 champions and on their way to the playoffs.
It really was a dream rematch here tonight, and both the Ducks and the Huskies lived up to their part. And to be 13-0 in this conference, as deep as it was this year, impressive.
The MVP goes to Micheal Penix.
Man, they tried to write us off, but we ain't right back. We ain't right back.
Congratulations, Coach.
Caleb Williams. Jumping up and laying in the arms of family there.
Tough night. Battle.
Sure did. He knows the reality of what a third loss means.
Move the ball back to the 22. They ruled it a sack. Picked off! Real estate ahead! Shilo Sanders showing him his shoe bottoms! Stunting like his daddy! Touchdown! In a crowd, no good. Picked off by Woods, and it's over. Buffaloes win it. Do you believe now? Coach Prime and the Buffaloes improved to 3-0. And some cordiality at midfield between the two respective brain trusts. They were down 11 points in the fourth quarter. With a frenzied and furious comeback choreographed by their quarterback and Heisman candidate Sheduer Sanders.
Buffs are going to go 1-0. 45-42, Sheduer Sanders takes a knee, and how about this? Prime time!
Relationships, Prime is always working on them. He understands their value. On the reverse, here's Weaver. He's going to jog. He's going to jog. "14 yards. The Cardinals storm into Boulder and run back to the farm in Palo Alto with the dub. 46-43 in a stunning comeback victory. Elik Iomana did a lot of the heavy lifting offensively, catching the ball in the second half with a school record reception. And this is officially the biggest comeback in school history for the Cardinal. Their first lead of the evening comes at the end of the game, 46-43.
In substance, not flash, rooted in substance. Today, we talk with our pads. You talk with your helmet, right? Every moment. The Cinderella story is over, man, right? They're fighting for clicks, we're fighting for wins. There's a difference, right? There's a difference, right? This game ain't gonna be played in Hollywood, it's gonna be played on the grass, right? It's gonna be played on the grass. Let's go.
Right. I don't think it's a target on our back. I just think this teams are trying to beat me. They're not trying to beat our team. They keep forgetting I'm not playing anymore. I had a great career. I'm serious. I got a gold jacket, ain't back. So I'm good. But that's what it really is. I don't think they get any extra satisfaction, you know. It is what it is. And I signed up for it, so let's go. No, they don't make it tough on our team. These are grown men. I'm not out there. If I was out there playing against every coach I played against, we would be totally dominant.
Coach, you made mention the other day when First State was in town that you're about 7 to 8 dogs away.
Yeah, I wasn't lying. I wasn't lying. I didn't. It translates in practice. I don't say stuff just to say it for a click, you know, contrary to what some may say. But yeah, I keep receipts. But I'm serious. I analyze and I understand what we're up against and what we have and what we need. One thing that I could say honestly and candidly, you better get me right now.
So again, this is the last live event
on Pac-12 Network. Pac-12 Networks began 12 years ago. I was one of the first hires and have been with the network since the launch. Tonight, I have the honor and the responsibility to say goodbye, because this is the final broadcast on Pac-12 Network. A different version of the Pac-12 will continue into a new era with the network's live event coverage that concludes tonight.
You know, I have been, I've gone through like 5 phases where I thought, well, that's kind of the end of the Pac-12, right? I mean, June 30th, 2022, when USC and UCLA leave. August 4th, last summer, when 10 schools bolted, or 8 schools bolted, you know, and then there's the last Pac-12 football game, and the last Pac-12 basketball game, and then the last Pac-12 conference championship, which was the baseball tournament. And then the passing of Bill Walton was kind of an informal moment there of the conference moving on. And so I guess last night technically counts as the last Pac-12 event as we know it, but I've been through it so many times here that it kind of didn't really hit me.
Yeah, John, and is this the end? I mean, that's the question that remains, right, when it comes to Oregon State, Washington State, whatever happens beyond that. But, you know, I see Oregon State fans, you know, the baseball team does well. Hey, hopefully this translates. Whatever basketball success, hopefully that translates. What do you think ultimately translates or doesn't translate in this new era for teams like an Oregon State and a Washington State and what they're hoping to maybe create?
Yeah, well, I mean, technically there will be a Pac-12 conference, because the NCAA has a 2-year grace period where you can compete with fewer than 8 teams. So, you know, this football season, there's going to be a Pac-12 with two schools. Once we get to the summer of 2026, what happens? I think the best bet is that there is a reformed conference that has a bunch of schools from the Mountain West and maybe some schools from, you know, the Central Time Zone. I think, you know, UTSA, for instance, is an intriguing option. But that would be my guess. Then the question becomes, beyond 26, what does it look like into the next decade? Do Cal and Stanford return because the ACC blows up? Does UCLA return because the Big Ten just doesn't fit? Is there a football super league that forces a lot of the schools to come back because they don't make the football super league, right? I mean, if there's a 30 or 40 school super league, I think USC, Washington, and Oregon are in it, but I don't know if anybody else is. So I think there's a whole bunch of ways that the Pac-12 could reform in some semblance of what we have come to know. But just on the immediate time frame, I think by the summer of 2026, there's a good chance there will be a Pac-12 that has a bunch of Mountain West schools and the Cougars and Beavers.
Walked into Maples today and they put the ACC on the floor. I was like, well, it's over. I mean, sometimes you need that physical reminder that this is really going to happen.
As rich as the Pac-10, Pac-12, Pac-8 was, the Big Ten even more so. So I'm really excited about this opportunity for UCLA's iconic brand to finally align itself, I think, with a conference that's going to be worthy of that brand.
Yes, time marches on. Empires fall. Allegiances fray. But we will always have our memories of the Pac at its peak.
All the band is out on the field! And they're mobbing Johnny Woods.
Oh, yeah, there we go.
Historic mark.
First ever national championship. 12th national championship.
NCAA record 16th national championship.
No one has won more games in the history of college basketball.
Up and I shake the room.